Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. We're sitting down with Bill Wark of floLIVE and Michael Hegeman of eTrac to talk about 5G. So we've been hearing inklings of 5G for a while now. Last year, we got a little distracted with the pandemic, but eyes are focused back on 5G, what it means for the final mile, what it means for logistics and visibility and your supply chain. So hopefully today we'll be able to share some of those valuable takeaways with you so you can start getting prepared and stay ahead of the competition. So just to start, let's introduce you to our speakers today. So starting with Bill. Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and your experience.
Yeah, appreciate it, Emily. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for attending. Good morning and good afternoon to all of you. My name is Bill Wark, and I've been in this industry for a little bit over 25 years. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about floLIVE, and then I'll transition it over to Mike so he can do the same thing and do his introduction. So floLIVE as a company in itself, we offer software-defined connectivity solutions based on cloud-native global connectivity services with inherent billing and fully designed and built for IoT services. We offer this service to enterprise customers, mobile operators, and cloud providers. Our platform comprises of local core networks, bringing connectivity that essentially manage and control over the cloud. This unique approach enables enterprise to benefit from high performance, secure, and regulatory compliant local connectivity with the flexibility and elasticity of a cloud-native platform. Our whole entire solution is provided as a service, and we also support and use the pay-as-you-go business model. Overall, our company is based on mobile operator executives and telecom technology experts passionate about IoT industry. And over the past 12 years, we have developed and fully own our technology stack, including our core network, BSS, and SIM management platform. floLIVE itself is financially strengthened and backed by leading venture capitals such as Qualcomm Ventures, Dell Technologies Capital, 83 North, and Savon Ventures. So overall, as a company, we're a global company based out of the UK, and I represent and run the sales side of floLIVE over here in North America. With that said, Emily or Mike, you can go ahead and take it over from here.
You want me to go ahead, Emily? We can't hear Emily. Great.
Emily muted herself.
Thanks for rejoining, Emily. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, great. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar here today. And Emily, thank you for organizing. Bill, thanks for joining us here in our eTrac series of webinars. Thank you again. Quick hello to everybody, and a quick background on myself. I've actually been in the telecommunications and transportation industry for over 25 years, having spent some time at AT&T and Hewlett-Packard and places such as that, strictly focused on being able to deliver the appropriate communication channels to solve business problems. And we definitely are going to focus on how logistics and how transportation is being affected by our wireless 5G technologies as we move forward into the 5G and beyond communication realm. So who is eTrac? eTrac provides visibility into the last mile. What's the last mile? The last mile is someone who's taking an order from a shipper and requires it to be delivered into a customer environment. That could be a B2B environment or a B2C environment. And what we've done over the years is created an environment where we have created a very large network of last mile carriers that we can bring to a company. So the value proposition that we have in the marketplace is that we're your single point of contact for all visibility into last mile delivery environments. And so connectivity, and Bill being the expert in connectivity, and we'll talk about, and I'll hopefully be able to interject where I can today, we'll be able to interject how connectivity will enhance what we do as a company and being able to provide the appropriate information to our carrier network that we've created over the years. So thank you again.
Great, thanks, Michael. All right, well, without further ado, we'll get into the meat of the information. I encourage, if you have questions about 5G, about how it's going to affect logistics, that you submit them in the questions area or the chat area throughout the webinar, and hopefully we'll have some time to answer those at the end. So, Bill, just to get us started, what is the difference between 5G and 4G? What are we moving to here?
Awesome. Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions. The reason why is because since we've been involved in this evolution of technology all the way from 2G to 5G, it usually takes about 10 to 12 years for these technologies to overall mature and then end of life. Right now, we're a little bit in the starting edge of 4G, meaning it's like year 3, year 4. So 4G is pretty much taken off right now, where with the low power networks, specifically in the supply chain area, it's providing a lot of visibility and manageability. But now the buzzword is 5G. So the main difference of 5G specifically, it has to do with speed, throughput, quality of services that it provides based on a technology. Since it, at a carrier level, it provides better spectrum efficiency. But for the enterprise customer, it provides that real-time communication where they can use cases to provide that visibility for the last mile. So take, for instance, as Mike was talking about, the last mile, the delivery, you can have, for instance, autonomous vehicles doing deliveries, and that requires a tremendous amount of bandwidth to manage that in order to provide that accuracy, for instance, and all the sensor-based technology that delivers at the last mile, and 5G is going to be able to provide that. But 4G is not something that is just going to simply go away. It's still going to be maturing, where both of them, both 4G and 5G, are going to be able to enable the supply chain logistics, specifically in the last mile, to be able to have that great visibility and manageability of the service. So it's one of my favorite questions, because there's a tremendous buzz around 5G, and we're specifically in floLIVE doing a lot with 5G. But 4G, we're doing some special things and a lot of special projects in the supply chain area, where we're optimizing and providing that visibility, manageability to the whole entire supply chain.
Hey, thanks, Bill. And Michael, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I agree 100% with Bill. I mean, the 3 areas that I look like, I'm a bullet point type of person, and I bullet point my things. And the 3 things that I sort of look at when I think of 5G are 3 things: greater transmission speed, lower latency, and bandwidth, right? So what do those 3 things mean to me as a last mile provider or as a transportation company? What that means to me is now I'm able to deploy services such as sensors, such as tracking type devices, things of that nature, better location potential with the lower latency, right? I can now put more devices on that same bandwidth and provide a higher level of service in the 5G environment. So as a transportation company and a last mile provider, I now have better visibility into what I am trying to deliver.
Sure, and it's not going to be a smooth transition. Michael, what speed bumps have we seen on the way to 5G?
I see 2 huge speed bumps in 5G. Number one being the deployment and coverage of 5G, right? We see an awful lot of commercials out there today from T-Mobile and other carriers out there today. But if you really pull back the covers and look at 5G coverage today, you're going to want to make sure you do a very extensive coverage investigation before we do that, to make sure that the areas that you're specifically have needs in are being met by a 5G coverage. And that's where recommendations by companies like floLIVE and other companies out there today who are in that business can definitely help a transportation company. My belief is that a transportation company knows transportation. floLIVE knows how to communicate and create connectivity. eTrac knows how to do last mile, right? So if you stay to your core and you engage the appropriate people to help you get to the end mean, whatever that end mean you define as, probably makes the utmost sense in the world. The other area, security, right? Making sure you secure your environment. You got to create an end-to-end security strategy, because what is it? This is your proprietary information that drives your company, right? what's the last thing you want to have happen? You don't want to have your proprietary information in the hands of the wrong people. So making sure you work with the appropriate companies and making sure that you create an end-to-end security strategy in 5G are the two key things that I would highlight immensely and make sure that you pay attention to if you're going to move to a 5G environment.
Absolutely. And Bill, you guys have worked a lot in 5G. What speed bumps have you guys run into?
Yeah, no, it's the same as Michael in many areas, but I'll just add one major speed bump, which is carriers have to invest pretty heavily in rolling out this technology. So they have to recover that expenditure somehow. So the pricing, it needs to be pretty much taken initially. It tends to be a little bit higher, but over a longer period of time, it's going to level off. The other thing that I would tell you that you're going to see speed bumps is that it's not just turning the switch and magically everything is covered with 5G. It's a process. It's a process that's going to take time, and this time is not a matter of days or months. It's a matter of years. So there's going to be coverage gaps. That's why it's important to strategically ensure that you have either backwards compatibility to 4G when deploying 5G technology. Right now is the time to be doing proof of concept or trials if you're using 5G technology for specific use cases in order to understand the technology, understand the parameters, and allow time for the overall ecosystem to develop in order for the products and services to come out to market that all the supply chain area or companies can basically utilize in order to optimize that visibility and the management through the whole entire supply chain. So I would say a lot of the things that Mike said, but the financial investment of carriers is pretty important as well.
Sure. And as a point of clarification, because now we're talking about logistics and telecommunications, when Bill says carrier, you mean Verizon, AT&T, big networks.
Yeah. The wireless carriers.
Yeah. So
versus the transportation.
Yeah, we call them carriers, operators, but in the logistics world, carriers are the 3PL, 4PL companies, last mile type companies and services. So yes, you're absolutely. Thanks a lot for picking that up, Emily.
Fine. It's one of those overlap words. But so when Bill's going to say carrier, he's talking about the actual broadband networks, the Verizons. When Michael says it, he's talking about the people making the deliveries. So I'm sure people are picking up on that. But you mentioned the delays. So how much time between now and before full 5G implementation?
Yeah. So of course I don't have the roadmap of all the carriers.
You don't have the magic wand, Bill? Come on, wait. Exactly. The crystal ball.
Yeah. But what we do have is we have the background. So for instance, we can use historical information how 2G was implemented and 3G and the transition from 3G to 4G. So one thing that I would tell you as a rule of thumb is that most of these technologies last between 12 to 15 years. So the first stage, and I think we're still at this stage with 5G, is the buzz stage, where everybody's talking about the technology. I remember usually that starts like 2-3 years before the technology even starts being tested and moving forward. So I think we're still at that buzz stage. And then after that, we are going to be doing a lot more proof of concepts. And the biggest challenge that you're going to start seeing right now is that you have the overall ecosystem. And when I'm talking about ecosystem, I'm talking about chipset, module vendors, finished product vendors, solution providers, back-end systems that are going to have to test this technology, implement it, get it certified. Mike mentioned about security, ensure that the certification and security is applied to all the components and so on. So this usually takes around 2 to 3 years. So in my personal opinion, I think by the beginning to middle of next year, we're going to still be evolving into the proof of concept trials, more of the ecosystem development. I would say 5G overall implemented and moving forward full strength is going to be 2023, 2024, and beyond that. But again, I'm pretty bullish with 4G. There's tremendous amounts of use cases that we're seeing right now taking off when it comes down with 4G, specifically with low power networks when you're talking about CAD-M and narrowband IoT, tracking assets through the whole entire supply chain. How exciting it is that the economics have come down low enough that now companies can go out there and launch and track all these assets globally, because the economics match up to the use case and they can deploy them and they're seeing their assets visible. And that in essence reduces the operational cost and provides that visibility and manageability for them to succeed and continue providing these services to retailers, to customers, to everyone that needs these products and services.
Absolutely. And you talked about this isn't the first time we've done this. We went from 3G to 4G like we have now. We hate to go a little off script here, but why is 5G, why are we making such a big deal out of 5G when not, in my opinion, that big of a deal was made out of 4G?
Yeah, it has to do because of the use case. But with the use case and the speed, there's a lot more complexity around it. But basically from 3G, and I'll start with 2G so you understand how simplistic it was back then. 2G, it was only 4 frequency bands, a module, and I can provide global communication. 5G or 3G came about, 5 bands, and I can provide global communication. The throughput was getting better, so the use cases were just simple, first generations, fleet management, preventative maintenance, and so on. Once we transitioned to 4G, this is where we branched off. There's low power networks that provide the use cases, like I mentioned, that are going to explode, which is providing asset tracking and supply chain visibility and management. That's key for that area. But then 4G also provided the high speeds that you can implement, dash cams, for instance, two-way video for driver behavior, for driver security, or the in-cab solution where you can have field force automation at the in-cab level. So 4G is providing that, where 5G is the excited area, is artificial intelligence. How can you optimize, how you can implement robotics and do that delivery where it can be done autonomously, remotely, by managing via the 5G networks that's going to provide that throughput and that visibility. So a lot of exciting things are happening, but technology is opening the doors, and it's basically 5G is one of the key areas that it's going to explode out there. And I feel pretty good about it, specifically where we fit, and because our whole entire core network is already supporting 5G. So we're right now waiting for the ecosystem to continue evolving, and for the carriers or operators in this case are going to deploy 5G technology.
Sure. Now, what is 5G going to do? You mentioned use cases for the actual visibility of that final mile carrier, the person actually delivering the packages and their technology. How is that going to translate to visibility for a shipper, 3PL, freight forwarder?
Yeah, so I would say one of the use cases that straddles 4G and 5G, we have, for instance, we're working with a large company that's creating smart labels using narrowband IoT and CAD-M in order to provide these labels that can be peeled and you can track all the way up to delivering it to the customer. So that's a good example in the 4G. But when it comes down to 5G with the speed, then you can have these, it's going to be all sensor based technology being used in these vehicles with autonomous technology that you can basically deliver whatever it takes. It could be pharmaceutical items, whatever it needs to be delivered to the doorstep of customers. And the autonomous driving, that's one. The other use case that I see that's being tested out there that requires a tremendous amount of bandwidth is drone delivery. So drones, you have to have drone-to-drone communication. That's a tremendous amount of bandwidth utilized right there. And then drone to earth station, because you need to be communicating with that drone consistently. That's another amount of data. So with 5G, with the lower latency, better quality of services, and the better throughput, these technologies are going to be implemented, and it's going to be able to, these use cases continually be tested right now, because even in my house, I see occasionally like 6 or 7 little robotics doing food delivery now in our neighborhood. And all that is communicating via 4G technology, but via 4G technology, the bandwidth is almost there, but what people are doing is getting creative by cascading multiple modems, as an example, or doing dual carriers to create that aggregate bandwidth, where 5G is going to provide that bandwidth, that use cases are going to continue growing, and you're going to be able to deploy these technologies a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes sense. It's going to be great. Michael, do you have anything to add there on what you're going to see in visibility?
Well, from your original question on the 5G and how are we going to deploy it, having come from a carrier, Bill and I come from a carrier environment, what drives 5G deployment is revenue, right?
Yeah.
The carrier has to see a return on their investment. They're spending tens of billions of dollars, right, on a network infrastructure upgrade that they're going to require a return on investment. How do we as an industry, right, and I'm going to use the transportation industry that we're in here at eTrac, as applications are going to drive revenue. And what Bill's described is absolutely right. So a example of an eTrac would be agriculture, right? Getting food off of a farm, right? And track, that's got, you now are on 5G have the capability of putting temperature sensors and or weight sensors or all these different types of sensors, right? As well as Bill talked about cameras, right? If I'm Kroger and I want to see what my corn looks like, guess what? I don't have to have someone on site anymore. I can use my 5G technology with my camera and tell that farmer that whether or not I'll accept that corn or not, right? So it's in the 5G environment, it's really about, for the wireless carrier operator, it's all about the revenue and the return on investment. How are they going to get there? They're going to get there by supporting applications that support the use of their networks, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. And so 5G is not everywhere. They're starting in the major markets, right? And then they're going to go out from there. Bill, what does that look like to you guys, where you have 5G in some areas and not in others? So for me personally, I live in a secondary market. We do not have any autonomous delivery vehicles running around out there. That would be really cool. We have lots of tractors, though. They could make deliveries for us. But the secondary, tertiary markets, how do companies address that in their primary markets versus their secondary?
Yes, it's very key. It's something that's gonna companies or enterprise companies or customers are gonna have to take into consideration to ensure that they have backwards compatibility. So what I mean by backwards compatibility, they might not be able to do everything when they move from 5G to 4G as an example, but you have to have that backwards compatibility to ensure that redundancy. The other thing, and we do a really good job, we have some technology that we utilize that allows us to do the automatic switching between operators. So having one single SIM that you can basically provide that automatic switching between multiple operators, provide that redundancy that you can plan ahead for those things. But the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is the deployment of 5G out there. One of the biggest areas where, and I'm bringing another subject into this, but it's pretty key for 5G, it's called private LTE and CBRS. So what I'm seeing out there, a lot of these companies that are freight forwarders and companies that have big distribution facilities or warehouses, what they're doing is that they're looking at implementing or trialing private LTE. Why is that? Because if you implement private LTE as an extension of the 5G network, you can have already that bandwidth, but you control it a lot more by having in your warehouse environment. So you're going to control the cost a lot more by maintaining it lower. And then as 5G continues to be implemented, then we do a really good job of bridging together a warehouse environment where you have that local warehouse environment to a global mobile network operator. So like that, you can continually have that visibility even when it leaves your warehouse environment. So private LTE, deploying it that supports 5G It's something that we're doing right now because we control the whole entire 3GPP stack, and we can do that right now. And we're working with several companies. These are large logistics companies that they're deploying it in warehouse environments and big distribution centers. So that's one of the key things to take into consideration when you're looking at when to deploy 5G and with the gaps of 5G. The biggest thing I would tell you is plan for that redundancy, plan for ensuring that you have backwards compatibility down to 4G in order to ensure that the communication is still there. It might not be fully there that you can implement everything, but at least you're communicating.
Sure. And Michael, what do you guys see on your side as far as a staggered rollout? How does that work?
Well, in terms of staggered rollout, it's ensuring that the service that you're trying to provide to your end customer is being met or exceeded, right? So as we move to 5G and different applications, I've talked an awful lot about applications. I think the key here is really going to be within the 5G environment is more of real-time information. To give you an example, in the transportation industry, we're working with a company because the paradigm of transportation is changing. Look at what Amazon's doing today, right? I'm looking out my door on a Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I got an Amazon truck sitting out in my alley, right? Because someone ordered something on a Saturday and said, I want it on Sunday. So what are they doing? They're going ahead and they're moving forward and doing that. And so, in terms of the last mile, the way we're seeing that is, we have a customer that is in the process, or not in the process, what they're doing is providing a real-time delivery service for 2,500 restaurants, right? With everything that's going on throughout the world today, what do we see? The expectation of the end user is I get instant gratification, right? If I order something from Walmart today, I want it today. If I order something from Amazon, I want it today. If I order my food from a restaurant, right? So we're working with an organization that does transportation for 2,500 restaurants throughout the United States, and we coordinate the delivery, right? What do I have to make sure that we're doing as eTrac is making sure that when that order for that food comes in, is that we're able to meet the end user requirement of having that food on their table within an X period of time, right?
Absolutely. And you mentioned consumer behavior. So how is this whole
Yes.
getting things faster, the 5G network, how is that going to impact their shopping online and final mile deliveries, capacity, all of that?
As we move into 5G, right, what are you providing now? Ease of use, right, at the consumer level. It's much easier for me to go on my phone as it is for me to go on my desktop at home today. Matter of fact, it's almost easier for me to go on my tablet or my phone today and actually order something today, right? So what does that do to the chain, the logistics chain? It says, all right, I'm ordering right now and I want that by end of day, just like I was mentioning earlier. I want that, I want to see gratification of what I'm doing, in a much shorter time frame. So how's consumer experience being affected by 5G? You're making services, right? We talked about what does the carrier want? They want applications, right? Applications drives time on their network. Guess what? As the consumer moves more towards that that cell phone or that tablet connected to their network on those applications, ordering through Walmart, ordering through Amazon, ordering through my local restaurant, right, has become much more prominent. And in the last mile environment, we've seen in the last 2 years a tremendous uptick in terms of requirements for last mile deliveries, right? Because of those expectations that are being set by the end user, whether or not it's a B2B environment or a B2C, right? What I sort of described as a B2C environment, but both sides we're seeing a tremendous uptake in that immediate gratification in terms of I'm doing something now and I want a result very quickly. And that result expected is much shorter than it ever has been in the past.
Absolutely. And Bill, what are you guys seeing as far as changes in behavior?
I would tell you this. I agree 100% with Michael, and I would just say this. I have 4 daughters and my wife living in a home. The demand is skyrocketing. I mean, they order online, they expect it in the doorstep the next day. So with 5G technology, somehow we need to figure out how we can disable that. No, I'm just joking. But no, the expectation is amazing. Amazon and UPS, FedEx, all of them do a great job right now, and specifically with all the systems and the technologies that are being implemented. That the consumer expectation is it's going to be there. They order today and tomorrow it's going to be there, and it's because of technologies like 4G and 5G being implemented, and in companies like eTracTechnologies providing that last mile visibility and manageability. That's why the consumers are seeing the benefits of it. And I agree with everything that Mike said in that exact point.
Yeah, and one other thought, Emily, on that is, as we talk about the immediate gratification of the consumer today, what does that do in terms of the transportation logistics environment? That puts tremendous pressure on what Bill just described. Just think of the pressure it puts on the Amazons, right? On the Walmarts, of the UPSs. How about the United States Postal Service, right? It's squeezing down the time frames and puts huge amount of pressure, right, on those logistics companies to be able to deliver and meet the expectation that are being put on them today. And I think that's what you'll see as we move into 5G and beyond, is as these services and applications become much more prominent, you're going to see an opportunity for logistics companies to be able to jump in. Because what happened last Christmas, right? Everyone's at home at Christmas time and they're ordering and they're expecting FedEx. I can tell you 3 of my packages last Christmas didn't make it before Christmas from Federal Express. That's unacceptable, right? Will I ever use Federal Express? Probably very limited compared to where I was using it before. But that just, I guess what I'm trying to communicate is that just opens up opportunities for companies to come in and be able to narrow that gap or fill that gap that exists out in the marketplace today. And that's where I think eTrac and our solution today, being able to provide that last mile capability and being able to provide that network that can guarantee that delivery outside of something that might not be guaranteed anymore, there's tremendous value in that environment.
Sure. And Michael, we've talked a lot about the big 3. You mentioned FedEx, UPS, and their technology. They're known for having great technology. They're these huge companies. But if we transition that down or translate that down to a regional carrier or a local carrier who also have technology, they have their own dispatching systems, their drivers have their own apps. How might 5G impact their carriers and drivers as opposed to a big 3 driver?
Well, you're going to have to be very careful to make sure that the coverage, right? We talked about coverage earlier, right? And the security capabilities of you deploying over 5G is being met today, right? And so you have to pay very, very close attention that your application is being delivered in that form or fashion.
Sure. And Bill, do you have anything to add about the regional or local technology and how 5G might affect those carriers?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I would tell you is that we might not see this, but the carriers that are implementing the technology are the carriers that are going to optimize their processes and meet the consumer demand, and their operational costs are going to go down, and they're going to be able to compete, and they're going to stay in the business a lot longer. I don't want to give specifics, but you name the top 3. I'll call them top 4. There's another one that I would throw in the mix right there. Yeah. One of those top 4s did not use technology. And what happened? Amazon, for instance, came in and met the demand. They set the standard, right? So everybody's playing catch up when it comes down to it. So whoever starts implementing these technologies and stays ahead of the technology curve and continues deploying these solutions are the ones that are going to be able to lower the operational costs over a long period of time by doing the proper investments and setting up and maintaining and overachieving the consumer expectations that right now are being set by the delivery timelines and so on. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And Michael, we talked about the carriers and on their end, but what about companies? What about the big retailers or distributors? What should they be doing on their end to get ready for 5G?
What they need to be is working, again, it goes back to my earlier comments. They know how to build or, get a product to market. What they're not experts in is communications and the final maybe delivery of the last mile to the consumer or to the business that they're trying to get. That's not their specialty. Stick to your specialty as a company, and then partner with the appropriate companies that's their business, right? floLIVE, communications, eTrac, last mile delivery, right? We do that for a living. That's our business. Your business is in, doing what you do best in the transportation business, right? So my recommendation, whether it's 5G or anything, I think that sticks for any business case that you have out there, because I would have to bet, or I'd be a betting man to say that the companies that know their business, such as the ones we have on today, are going to be able to bring a quicker time to market, a lower cost, operational cost, right? Then you could probably negotiate on your own and make sure that you're meeting or exceeding the expectations that your customer has out there today.
Absolutely. And Bill, what advice would you give these companies as they prepare for 5G?
Yeah, prepare by ensuring that you investigate the technology, do some proof of concepts, do trials, learn about use cases, learn about the technology, look how you can implement the technology. So I'll give an example. And actually, Mike was with me when we're working together at AT&T, yeah. Where technology was implemented. And what happened is it did its job. But what happens is the company wasn't prepared to operationalize that. Yeah. So you have to ensure that you test the technology, test the use case, and learn from it in order for you to put your whole entire business plan and take it to market. When you try to piece things together without learning about the technology, without doing trials, without going out there and partnering up with the right companies, it tends to be messy and not going to be successful at that point in time.
Absolutely. And you mentioned sensors earlier. You mentioned autonomous robots doing deliveries. What other innovations do you see stemming from 5G that companies should be aware of?
Yeah, so I would tell you, and from my point of view, I'm more familiar with the whole entire supply chain because they've done a lot of deals that specifically with the large shipping container companies, as an example, and working and providing end-to-end visibility. So I think 5G, for instance, can be implemented in ports and warehouse and distribution facilities, like I mentioned before. So what that is going to do is enable not only robotics, artificial intelligence, but also the tracking and inventory and visibility of assets within a compound or within a warehouse or port, and then transitioning to the in-cab solutions. As an example, it's going to continually be developed all the way from the dash cam for safety and security for driver behavior, to the field force automation in the in-cab, to the preventative maintenance, extracting it via OBD2 or the J-bus ports of these vehicles, to the sensor-based technology at the back of the cab, meaning sensors, door open and close sensors, brake sensors, temperature sensors, contrast imaging sensors to determine full or empty. All that combined, all this technology can be implemented either with 4G or 5G, and it's a matter of companies testing, seeing exactly where their value is going to be, how they can lower operational costs, and justify the deployment of these technologies. And it's there. The good thing is the economics have fallen down to the point that customers can use these technologies out there in the market, and it's going to help improve the visibility throughout the whole entire supply chain.
Absolutely. And as you're listing off all of those different sensors, I was seeing metrics go back to the shipper in the form of visibility. How long did they brake for? Were they there? Were they speeding? What were they doing? Where are they located at? But Michael, what do you see? What kind of innovations do you see coming from 5G?
The innovations from 5G, what I think this does, 5G opens up where we were limited to very industry specific applications in the past. I think 5G now opens up all industries, right? So Bill talks about doing proof of concepts and doing that. You tell me what industry you're in, and we'll look at the applications such as artificial intelligence, such as predictive analytics, right? These are applications that are not industry specific, but if brought into a 5G environment and brought into your day-to-day operations, can increase revenues, lower operational costs, things of that nature, by deploying the appropriate, technology as bandwidth and lower latency and higher speed within a network, right? We can do these things, right? So maybe we can increase in a 5G environment. I'm just thinking out loud here, is that maybe you have a robot and one robot's performing better than the other one. Well, let's do some predictive analytics on that, and let's measure why one robot's doing better than the other one. Or, I mean, that's a obscure example, but again, 5G, I think, is opening the doors, right? The carrier wants applications. They want more time on their network to make sure they can continue to invest in 5G and open up new coverage areas for us. And I truly think that 5G is now opening up all industries to be able to use a communications transport technology called 5G. It's just a matter of how the specific applications affect how and when they'll use that technology.
Well, we are running out of time, but I'll quickly wrap up with just a couple more questions. Bill, where does floLIVE see 5G affecting your business and your customers' business?
Well, it's a good thing. As I mentioned before, our whole entire core infrastructure is built with 5G. So we see that we are moving forward in that direction. So exciting times for us. But more importantly, we stand ready to support trials, proof of concept. And the biggest area that we're seeing a lot of momentum, like I said earlier on, is in the private LTE CBRS side for campus environment technologies. And I think that's where right now we have that momentum combined with the coverage that's coming. Exciting time for us. floLIVE is ready to support that, to support companies in the logistics space, and specifically in the last mile service that you guys provide. It's something that we can help and optimize and provide visibility, manageability to a lot of these assets that are being delivered.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. And Michael, where do you see 5G affecting eTrac and our customers and our business?
Well, using a communications channel in our transportation business provides better visibility into the entire supply chain, right? It provides us real-time information that we can either push out or pull in to our organization that allows us to run our businesses better. So I think, as we move to much more of a real time and the expectations being set by our end users is becoming much more demanding on us as a transportation company, as you go into 5G and able to utilize 5G and the advantages of 5G that they're promoting out there today, just helps us meet or exceed the expectations that the end customer or the application that we're using is putting on us.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, Michael, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you guys sharing your insights, everything you know about 5G. I know I've learned a lot about 5G. I can't wait to have my packages delivered by a robot.
Or a drone, yeah.
Track my order every second of the day. That's everybody's dream, right? And thank you to everybody who attended. You will receive a link to the recording afterwards. If you have any last-minute questions, feel free to submit them or send me an email and we'll get Bill and Michael to answer them for you in a follow-up email. But I appreciate everybody coming today. Hope everybody has a great Wednesday. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care.